It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in at Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Happy Derby Day. First Saturday of May. Alex White is here as well. That was the applause you heard.
That was me. I'm very excited.
That was all you. Sean has been excited for about a month now. He's got almost all of his bets in. Drew Dog's here as well. Drew Dog does not have his bets in for obvious reasons.
He does, because the studio has their bets in. And so,
Drew Dog does not have his bets in for obvious reasons. That's the party line, Alex. All right, let's get to it here. Start off with the starting five, and that will be number one with the Kentucky Derby right out of the gate here. A little bit of a move. We have co-favorites. Well, not exactly co-favorites, but you get a better price on fierceness now than you did a few days ago, 3-1 on the current odds. Second favorite, the two-horse Sierra Leone at 5-1, and then Forever Young, trying to become the first Japanese horse ever to win the Kentucky Derby at 6-1, rounding out your top three shortest odds right now, Alex.
Yeah, just a reminder, stay on this YouTube channel after you watch our show, because we do have a Derby special by Ralph, who has been making his way on all of our shows, done a great job. So listen to that special. A lot of guests on there, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of different picks. But moving to number two in the starting five, Game 7 on the ice, Toronto at Boston. The Bruins minus 135, and this total, 5.5, juice to the under, minus 145. For a good reason. 4 of the 6 games have stayed under 5 total goals. The last 2 have been 2-1 outcomes. So I understand that move here and the money on the under.
It's the only Game 7 today. It's the only one as the Bruins try to avoid the same fate in the second. They would be. I'll find the tweet in a little bit, but they could make some really dubious history today if they were to lose today and blow a 3-1 series lead for a second consecutive year. And quite frankly, I'm kind of surprised that Doc Rivers wasn't one who did it. There we go, from J.D. Buntkiss. Bruins on the verge of becoming the first NBA, NHL, or MLB team to blow a 3-1 series lead in back-to-back seasons. Again, stunned Doc Rivers has not managed to do that in his career. We don't even need to get Doc Rivers. They got eliminated 2 days ago. All right, number 3, round 2 in the association. Always love when the second round of the postseason begins before round 1 even ends. We'll get that in a little bit. The Minnesota Timberwolves go on the road to the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets tonight. 4.5-point favorites right now. The Nuggets are at home, 208.5. Both teams with a nice set of rest. Denver hasn't played since Monday. Minnesota hasn't played since Sunday. And right now, the Denver Nuggets, not shockingly, the favorites to win this series and the favorites to win the Western Conference. Minus 210 on Denver right now, plus 180 on the take-back on Minnesota.
Yeah, very impressive first round for the Timberwolves, but still you're getting a very good price there, plus 180 if you like them to pull off this upset and beat the Nuggets. But for number 4 today, Game 7 in the NBA, that is tomorrow, because yesterday, of course, the Magic forced a Game 7. They are going to Cleveland. Cavs are a 3.5-point favorite. Total on that one, 195.5. We know this has been a grinder between these two. Very good defense. Still, home team 6-0 in this series and 5-1 against the spread.
And then there's one other Game 7. Forced last night. What an outing by Aiden Hill as he pitches a shutout. The Knights beat the Stars 2-0 last night just down the road at T-Mobile. Game 7 on Sunday in Big D. The Stars, the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, have gotten all they can handle here in this first-round series against the 8 seed. Not a normal 8 seed, to say the very least. But the Stars are minus 150 in Game 7. Winner of that gets the reward of flipping around and playing Colorado 2 days later.
Correct.
A lot of fun.
Very good.
A lot of fun potentially in that. But, hey, get the next round. It's all that matters. 5.5. We'll have full breakdowns because we're not on the air tomorrow. We'll have full breakdowns of everything that's going on tomorrow. Also, another series price and another series that's all set with the team that has home ice as a nice-sized underdog. Vancouver last night. 1-0. Again, that series, That series, the offenses were so bad in that series. Didn't create enough chances. A late goal in the third period advances Vancouver. Now, we'll get to that in a little bit. But
Yeah, I mean, if
Edmonton's a
Demko
nice size
can
favorite.
come back, I think that might change things for this next series.
Well, we'll talk about that in about 15 minutes from now. The series price in Vancouver and Edmonton. Don't even have to leave Canada for that series. How about that? They'll actually be guaranteed one Canadian team in the Final Four.
That's right.
Guaranteed with Edmonton and Vancouver there. Toronto trying to have 3 out of the final 8 be from north of the border. All right. To the association first, though, Alex. Just looking at yesterday, and then we'll look into Game 7 tomorrow. Look into Game 6, Game 1. Even that has my brain messed up in the association. But look, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic, the series has played out basically. I don't want to say exactly how I thought, because I thought Orlando would have won in 6, but home teams are 6-0 now, straight up. Home teams have covered all but one game, and Cleveland was very close to covering down in Game 5. A late 3 that had it land 1 instead of 4, costing Cleveland to cover. Last night, 103-96, another under in this series. Didn't matter. We were at 200 by the time that game got there. We got there. Donovan Mitchell had 50 points last night. The rest of the Cleveland Cavaliers had 46. Now, my one basketball-related thing before we look at the Game 7 numbers, because I think it plays in here. Donovan Mitchell was playing hero ball last night. I know 50 points and 50 points is a great effort regardless. But Cleveland scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, in part because of the way that offense really just bogged just watching Donovan Mitchell trying to score. Darius Garland was awful in the fourth quarter last night. They need a second guy. They need Robin to the Batman. And Cleveland has not had that on the road, thankfully for them.
Right.
Game 7 at home. We don't know if Jared Allen's going to be able to go. He missed again last night, and that's a key defensive cog, as we know, Alex. But for Orlando, look, result does not matter on Sunday. This has been an amazing season. This has been great playoff experience for them. Everything now is gravy. And if they win, pull the upset in Game 7, Alex. Doesn't matter if you go get crushed by Boston in the second round. This is a team that, all right, you make the play-in game, great accomplishment. Get the play-in game. They earned Game 7 in round 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has been a very good season for them. One of the best home teams that we had throughout the year. So great accomplishment for them. We'll get into this more, but you're right. I mean, Donovan Mitchell definitely needs help, but we have seen that more at home. So I think the home team still has the advantage here in this matchup. But I know this is where we did have it flipped. Not many differences in our bracket, but this was one of them, and now it comes down to Game 7.
Well, I will go back to what I said at the beginning of the playoffs. If karma is a real thing, the Orlando Magic win this series. Because Cleveland, we know what they did the final day of the regular season. Up 10 in the fourth quarter, benched their whole guys so they lose to basically Charlotte's G League team to avoid what ended up being avoiding the Indiana Pacers, more so than anything, to get Orlando, and then promptly have to play Boston in round 2. I think they have no shot of being competitive with. Could have been competitive with the Knicks. I can tell you that right now with the way that the injuries have stacked up for New York. Alex, we'll get to the point spread in a second, but the total is where the eyeballs are here.
Correct.
And we expected this. We expected the total to be sub 200. Right now, we are at 195.5. That is market high right now on this game. It's mostly 195 with even a sprinkle 194.5 in some spots. I don't know how you can justify betting the over, though.
I agree.
I really don't know how you can justify it. It's a Game 7. This is going to be a low possession game. As we know, as series goes along in the NBA, more times than not, sometimes you get like we saw in the Knicks and the Sixers, sometimes you get the boost in Game 6. Sometimes that happens. Game 7, usually the lowest scoring game of the series.
Yeah, 4-2 to the under so far in this series. Couple weird ones there, but you mentioned it yesterday. Only one time in the series did both teams even reach 100 points. So I think you're pretty good going under that total. But just going back to your karma thing, I mean, sports is about strategy, right? And that was a little bit of strategy that they were using with the Cavs. I mean, I see what you're saying, and you're kind of just prolonging the inevitable because then you have Boston, the best team in the league, up next. But
I don't think it was good. If you're saying it was strategy, I think it was poor strategy, though. That's my biggest problem more so than anything. Like, all right, it's one thing if you employ this. Again, I hate employing it to begin with because, remember, on that final day of the season, the Knicks needed overtime to beat the Bulls. What happens if the Bulls steal that game and then all of a sudden, instead of getting, you just screwed yourself out of the 2 seed.
right.
Now, yes, I think Cleveland would have lost to Philadelphia, especially the way that Philadelphia played that series against the Knicks, but would have had 2 series of home court advantage,
Right.
Potentially for Cleveland. You really, the strategy's like you've no long-term vision in this. It's, all right, we may win a series. They're going to get crushed by Boston. That's the one team in the Eastern Conference that Cleveland has. Honestly, at this point, with the way the field is breaking down, I don't think anyone in the East is beating Boston in the 7-game series. I'm not even sure if anyone's getting them further than 5 games at this rate, at least on the East side. West, totally different story with that series that begins tonight, where I think both of those teams are capable of beating Boston in a 7-game series.
Ooh.
Really? All right. So you win a playoff series against a team, what? Cleveland was what? Minus 250, 260 to win this series, pre-series? You're supposed to win this series. So, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I did not like. And also, openly tanking game 82 to basically pick, quote unquote, pick your opponent. I've seen that in the past. Hasn't worked much.
Correct.
Has not worked
But
much.
I'm from a baseball family, so it's always, you don't save your ace, right? You have to win the game in front of you. So I know what you're saying, where they kind of set themselves up to have Boston, but they felt that they could handle this series, at least first. Handle one at a time.
I will say, I'm not going to bet this game on the side. I am going to bet this under. I'm not even going to hesitate. If they beat me, so be it. This feels like this game will get played. Last night, sort of lucky in the end to get there, but kind of feels like it'll get played in the low 90s again, like I thought game number 6 would be.
I'm with you, and I think that is the better bet. I'm going to stay away from the side as well, because I would not be shocked at all if Orlando wins this. And they've looked better on the road than we've seen Cleveland, so they can hang in there.
What about Cleveland winning by 1? Cleveland winning by
Correct.
2? Like, that wouldn't shock me here. This is a flip. This is a virtual coin flip, and
Yep.
3.5 on the road kind of dictates that, all things considered, in a playoff scenario. All right, to the other NBA game, the one tonight, game 1. Now, Minnesota was far and away the most impressive team in round 1 in the NBA. I don't even no doubt about that. Just sucked the life out of Phoenix quickly. 1 to 2 games on the road. Anthony Edwards, people are starting on a bigger scale. People who were watching the association knew how good Anthony Edwards already was. But on a bigger scale, now it's okay. This kid's fully arrived. He's a top 5 player in the league. This is why him vaulting up is why Minnesota's taken this leap forward as well. And now, it's a hell of a test for Minnesota. You get the defending champs, who were not at their best in round 1, but still won in 5 games in a series that was way more competitive than a 5-game series. That series is the competitiveness of a 7-game series. But here we are, game 1, Denver 4.5, 208.5 the total here. And the Nuggets, as we said earlier, a minus 210 favorite to win this series, plus 180 on the takeback on the Minnesota Timberwolves, Alex.
I don't know what to do with this first game, Jeff.
I agree.
With the side.
I agree.
Because we've seen the Nuggets, they've won 5 series in a row that first game going back to last year. So they have been very dominant in that first one. But then we have a little bit of revenge here with Minnesota, who lost in 5 games in round 1 to Denver. Of course, they were the 8th seed. Denver was the 1 seed last year. So a little bit flipped. And you're right. Timberwolves were definitely the best team. Now they are stepping up in class, taking on the Nuggets, because the Suns are kind of a mess, a little bit all over the place, a little clumsy with those big 3. But I actually like the over in this one at 208.5.
Okay.
And I know Minnesota's the best defensive team in the league, but I just think there's going to be a lot of shots in this one. It's going to be a little bit faster pace between these two. T-Wolves averaging 118 points per game against the Suns, and then the Nuggets 116. Like you said, not their best against the Lakers. So I know we're going to see more defense as this series goes on, but in this first one, I think that's a pretty good number to get the over.
I don't have anything in this game. I think numbers are spot on. If you made me play it pre-flop, I think this series is going to be a great in-game series, personally, where
I agree.
Where if teams, anyone, doesn't matter which side, gets up 15, 18, 20, I'm coming back the other way and taking points. I just, that will be my strategy, especially in this series, more so than other ones. You may be like, if let's say Minnesota's loses both in Denver and then Minnesota gets out big in game 3, maybe I won't do it with Denver, where it's like, all right, we'll punt this one if you're the Nuggets. But the totals are going to be interesting in this series because Minnesota, the best defensive team in the NBA this year, but they were willing to play faster against Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you should be willing to play faster against Denver, especially where Denver has all sorts of advantages, as we know, where harder to play at 52-80 when you're on the road in this series. Denver is the best player in the league, and Jamal Murray's a different animal when he's in the postseason. So it's a little bit dangerous to want to run with them. But 208.5 is still a pretty low number, all things considered. Now, for the playoffs, it's not. But the current NBA, it's a lower number. I will say, I think when it's all said and done here, Denver wins this series because of the home court, Alex. That's where I'm at. Where Minnesota, remember, going into the last week of the season, there was a real shot Minnesota was going to get the 1 seed, then it got drubbed in the final game of the regular season, and that's why they're in the 3-hole and not the 1-hole. If Minnesota had the 1 seed, I right now would probably be picking them to go to the finals. But because of because of getting the 3, and having to have Game 7 in Ball Arena in Denver, I think that's when it's all said and done for them. The Nuggets win this series in 7 games. Like I said yesterday with Knicks and Pacers, I think these bottom of the bracket series are going to be pretty much mirroring themselves. Home team wins all 7 in Denver, Minnesota. Home team wins all 7 in New York and Indiana. So I like the Nuggets. And I do think that's a reasonable price if you can lay about $2 to win the series on the Nuggets.
And I did take Minnesota plus 1.5 games.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Because I'm with you. I do think this will go to 7. I mean, Minnesota is so good defensively, so they can hang around in this one. In the other series with the Pacers, that worries me a little bit with the Knicks, and we went over that yesterday, but we'll dive into that more. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. This should be one of the best series we have coming out of the West.
We'll take a quick break. When we get back, Game 7 on the ice tonight in Beantown. A big one between the Bruins. And, of course, it's a big one. It's Game 7. Bruins try to avoid a second consecutive year of blowing 3-1 leads. Also, a Game 7 tomorrow in Dallas. We'll break them both down when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio. The perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes. I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
When I look at the clock, I go, ah! Ah!
Oh! Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Happy to be with you as always. All right, let's go to the ice. Game 7 tonight in Boston, Mass. The Bruins. This series was over. Done and dusted. Up 3-1. Austin Matthews can't even get on the ice with an illness. Not so fast, my friend. The Leafs winning both Game 5 and Game 6, forcing Game 7. Alex, let's just start with the pricing here, because this is one of those where if you like Boston, shop. The lowest price I see on Boston right now is -1.25. Behind us, it's $1.35. Plus 115 is basically the industry standard on the Leafs. There's some that are a cent or two better. So, yes, a little bit better, but nothing too nuts. Total's 5.5. The books don't want to move up the 5.5 because they're up to $1.40 on the juice on the under here.
Correct.
So they don't want to move the 5. Can't really blame them on that. I'll kick to you first here, because this is a series I thought Boston would handle their business. Toronto would do their usual Toronto thing, but I mean, look, the Bruins are a game away from doing something that has never been done in Major League Baseball, the NFL, or excuse me, of course, never been done in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, or the NBA, where a team has blown a 3-1 lead in back-to-back seasons.
I would look to the Leafs here with getting that plus money, and I am on the under. I'm on under 5.5. I'll tell you, I did a round robin.
Okay.
But I'll give that after this. The main difference in this matchup, Jeff, has been the goalie switch for Toronto, and we haven't talked about it much, but Joseph Woll has been fantastic for the Leafs, and I think he's in the Bruins' head a little bit. So that worries me for Boston, even though they're going back home. They also haven't been switching theirs. I believe Swayman is still getting the start for them, who is fantastic as well. But that's why I think the best bet in this is definitely the under 5.5. The last 2 games have been 2-1, really playoff hockey between these two. I would go back on my first period under 1.5 as well, especially with how good these goalies have been playing and that goalie switch for Toronto.
You know, it's just one of those where this is more sports talk more than sports betting talk here. The exorcism that this would be for Toronto, where they're the franchise that has always blown these type of things. Of course, the longest cup drought in the league. Of course, we saw this we've seen this matchup before in the recent past, where the Leafs had a 3-goal lead in the third period against Boston in a Game 7. Nope, not good enough. Blown in less than 8 minutes of game action. And for the Bruins, I mean, look, this group, they've won a lot of regular season games.
Yes, they have.
They've been to a cup final, this group. This group has won nothing. This group has won nothing. As great as Marchand and Pasta and these guys have been, this group has won nothing of significance. They've won one Eastern Conference championship, and that was a decade ago now. You got to do it at some point if you're Boston. Now, I think the winner of the series is screwed next round. I think Florida, which is the way that Florida ended the regular season and just how dominant they were against a Tampa team that I thought Tampa was going to win that series. And as always with Florida, as long as you're getting reasonable Bobrovsky, you're in really good shape with how talented everyone is in front of them. But this is, for Toronto, like if you come back from 3-1, by the way, I do like the Leafs tonight. And there's no pressure whatsoever on them. And it's all on Boston. And it kind of goes back to this ridiculous thing they've done all year with the 2 goaltenders, which does not work in the postseason. It doesn't work. Now you got going to be Swayman again, but Swayman's not used to playing seven straight games.
Correct.
So something's got to change with Boston's strategy moving forward in the regular season if they were to lose this series. I know there's a lot of puck luck that's mixed into this, but I like the Leafs, and I don't know if I love laying $1.45 on it under, but how are we getting to 6 in this game unless if someone hops out to a big lead and we get an empty net scenario? Like, I don't see anyone getting out to like a 3-0 lead in this game. I don't see that happening, Alex.
No, I don't either. I think it'll be very close. And so my round robin, I took this under 5.5. I took the Knights in Dallas under 5.5. And then I also took the Canes and Rangers. So for anybody, round robins, we talked about them before, but if you have 3 games, you're pretty much just doing 2-team parlays between the 3 mixed all in one. So 2 of them win, get a little bit more than my money back. All 3 win. It's a pretty good payout.
I'm curious to see where the pricing comes, regardless of who wins the series on the next series. Because if Florida is underpriced at all, that feels like a very good bet next round against who, regardless of whoever comes out of the next series. All right.
This Panthers team is hungry. I mean, they made a miraculous run last year to the Stanley Cup, lost not in very good fashion to the Knights. So, I mean, we've seen that. And like you said, they dominated that first round against Tampa Bay. So I would definitely like the Panthers in the next one.
2 games tomorrow. Let's hit Game 7 first before we get Game 1 of the mega series in the Eastern Conference.
Ooh.
Vegas forces it. The Knights with a win on the road, or at home, I should say, now going on the road to take on Dallas at home. Dallas, we have the teams flipped on our screen. Stars are favored in Game 7. No shock at that. -150 behind us. Total 5.5. Alex, let's just talk about the total first, where this series, other than really Game 1, now Game 3, there should have been a lot more goals than there were because Logan Thompson stood on his head, but this is
then Game 4, there was 4 goals in the first period. Is that Game 4?
Game 5, there was 4 in the first period, but 1 the rest of the game.
Correct. Yeah.
So it landed 3-2, which was a moose if you had the over in that game. But look, Alex, at 5.5, you can find $1.20 that you can lay, which there are some options to do. I think that is worth taking the under again here in Game 7.
I'm with you, especially because last night is what I expected throughout this entire series between these two. They are both defensive-minded, both their head coaches are, and great goalies. But, of course, we saw Aiden Hill. He got his second start, and he looked fantastic, had a shutout last night against the Stars. And he has played better against the Stars than Logan Thompson. So I think that kind of gave the Knights a little bit of confidence knowing they had him back in net for the second game in a row. This is going to be a great game. I'm with you, though, Jeff. I think the under is the best play. That's why I tied it up with the other two. But, yeah, I mean, it comes down to this. Game 7 in Dallas. I think they have a slight edge there, but I think 150 is a little high for when the momentum just shifted again. Vegas wins after losing 3 in a row. I think the momentum is on their side. So I do like the plus money here with the defending Stanley Cup champions.
I have absolutely no idea who's going to win this game. That's why I like the under. That's why I like the under. That's the play in this game. The only thing I feel pretty confident in is because last night, now granted, both goalies were great last night. Ottinger was awesome. Look, Hannafin just made a great shot.
Yeah.
And just what are you going to do if you're Ottinger? And then Hill, I mean, Dallas very easily could have had 3 goals last night. Hill was awesome as well. I just think we're going to have high-end goaltending yet again, and we know how tight Game 7s are.
Yep.
So
you're right.
That's the only way I would look at it. Look, I get the pricing. The pricing is right. Dallas is the better team. They're at home. They should be about $1.50 at home in a Game 7 winner-take-all scenario. Do I want to lay that? Absolutely not. But on the flip side, I'd like a little bit better price on the Golden Knights, which, again, I get the pricing. The pricing's right in this. This is exactly what it should be for Game 7. So it's a very tight line on the side, but the total, I think, again, if you can lay $1.20, I wouldn't go more than that. Don't really love laying $1.25, $1.30, but if you can lay $1.20 on the under, I would go and lay that under right now because that is not going to close 5.5 -120. Probably going to close 5.5 -135 when it's all said and done.
Absolutely, just like we're seeing with that game today. And again, I would lean to under 1.5 at the first period between these two as well.
Do that as well. Absolutely. The other game tomorrow, the Rangers the Hurricanes. This is the big series. To me, the two best teams in the NHL squaring off Game 1, Madison Square Garden. And how about that? The Carolina Hurricanes are a road favorite in Game 1, Alex. And again, for the series, the New York Rangers, well, this has been starting to get bet down. Behind us is $1.25, plus 125 on New York. So that price is creeping down. The money's coming in on the blue shirts. You still get plus 135 at some other shops. But Alex, I'm going to take the Rangers in Game 1. I'm going to take them in the series as well, as I've already said. I'm in at $1.35. But again, home ice is going to matter in this series. And what the market is telling me, the Hurricanes are much better than the Rangers. That's what the market's telling me. I don't agree with that at all. And you had the better goalie still on the Rangers side, even though Shesterkin had a weird year. And I think these teams are dead even. And home ice will matter in this series. So again, that's why I bet the Rangers. I have the Rangers to win the cup. And I will stand by what I said because you and I think we agree on this. The winner of this series will be the one hoisting the cup in about 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, this is a very big series for us at the desk.
Yes, it is.
You're right. We both.
Well, I have the Rangers. You have the Canes. It's as simple as that.
Not that simple, though, because we do have them going all the way. So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It messes up one of our brackets, definitely. But I don't know what to do with this Game 1. Rangers dominated the Caps in round 1, and Carolina really did struggle a little bit against the Islanders. So that makes me a little bit nervous here in this first game. But they have played more recently, and I think they played more playoff hockey against New York there. I went ahead and made a bet on the Canes to be up 2-1 after 3 games, though, getting a little plus money there because I do think they'll steal one in New York. It was plus 140 on that bet. So you're not far off. I mean, they are pretty evenly matched. And I do think these are two of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. I might have Florida right there with the Rangers, but it's going to be a great series.
Florida, again, the one argument for Florida now, if you're looking at futures in the Eastern Conference, the biggest argument for Florida is these two teams could beat the crap out of each other for 7 games. It's more than likely that something like that, 6 or 7 games happens. Florida,
yes.
Look, as good as Boston is and as talented as Toronto is, I think Florida's going to beat either of them in 5 at this rate. So a little bit of an easier roll to the East Final. How much in the tank would that Metropod winner have against Florida? Both the Rangers and the Canes would have home ice against Florida as well. So that would be an advantage for either of those teams. The other NHL series that is now set. How about Vancouver? Vancouver last night in a series that, look, the offenses were pretty dreadful on both sides and for both teams. A goal with 90 seconds to go by Suter. Behind their third goaltender, Silovs, the Canucks find a way. They find a way. They beat the Preds in 6. Silovs, by the way, 28 saves last night, so he was reasonable, to say the very least. I hated how Nashville played that series. It just
I agree.
did not create enough scoring chances. Really not many high danger chances as well. Just really poorly played series, all said and done, by the Preds in a series that, quite frankly, once Demko goes down, the Preds should win that series, and they did not. But credit to Vancouver for winning the series. Now, all Canada in the Pacific Pod, the Oilers, who just, look, credit to Edmonton. We've seen postseason failings from them. They were awesome in round 1, just shutting down an inferior team. If you're as talented as Edmonton, Alex, you should do that in round 1 when you're much better than your opponent. Part of the reason I took the Kings was I thought, maybe their style is going to make Edmonton lose their minds for a little bit. No, Edmonton just played their game, except for Game 4, but they got a great effort from Skinner in that game, and that was enough. Now, Edmonton without home ice is minus 250 favorite, plus 210 on Vancouver. Alex, this price is 100% right. And quite frankly, I actually think Edmonton, even without home ice, should be a bigger favorite than that.
Wow.
Who's playing goalie for Vancouver?
Well, that's the thing that changes.
If you're betting Vancouver here, you're making a bet that Demko plays the majority of the series.
Correct.
Which is not a bet I want to make.
That's true because he has been in and out with injuries. He got better, was good for the playoffs for a bit, and then good leading up to the playoffs and then was injured again. So that is a tough one, but he is skating again. So I would lean to seeing him in this series. And listen, Vancouver, they've been consistent all year. They have been a great team all year. And that's the biggest difference with them and the Predators, because the Predators were not. And you said it before the series, they don't have great goaltending with Saros. I mean, he's decent and great at times, but he's not consistent. And I think that was the biggest difference. We saw Nashville go on this tear. They were the hottest team in hockey February to get them into the playoffs. And then it really came down to consistency and what the identity of the team actually is. And Vancouver has had that all year long. So, I think they can put up a good fight here. I may look at some numbers and what I can get for this game to go the distance. That's the way I'll play this.
So you look for 7.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Again, if you're Edmonton, this has to be the year you bust through.
That's true.
And I know, look, that central pod, doesn't matter who wins tomorrow. Colorado against either Vegas or Dallas is a mega series. It's a mega series. It's the same as the Rangers and Carolina on the east side, where Colorado's, still probably the most talented team in the NHL. Take the goalie out, it's definitely the most talented team in the NHL. Obviously, their question mark is Georgiev, who was more than good enough in round 1 because Hellbuck was as bad as he's been all the worst he was all year.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just the question mark again, where if you're Edmonton and you finish this series quickly against Vancouver, just sit and watch Colorado and Dallas or Colorado and Vegas just beat the heck out of each other for 7 games, which if it's Colorado, Vegas, Colorado, Dallas, I would expect that series to go 6 or 7 games. Unless if Dallas Dallas wins tomorrow and then Dallas comes out and just really blitzes Colorado early.
I don't see that happening,
I
though.
don't either.
And you've been saying that. I was a little down on Colorado, especially after last year. They lost in the first round. Seattle kind of shocked them.
Yep.
And
Huge
took them
upset.
out of the playoffs. But you're really seeing them start to click at the right time. So they are very dangerous, this Avalanche team. It's getting interesting, though.
Well, that was a huge upset last year.
Yes, it
when
was.
Seattle took them out, and then that was really kind of the path that helped Vegas again not have to play Colorado at all. Dallas last year, I thought Vegas matched up much better with them last year than they do this year, even though it's been a dead even series so far between the two of them. All right, before our guy Vincenzo joins us in a few minutes, well, not even a few minutes, maybe even momentarily, baseball today, Alex. I only have one game that popped, and it may surprise you where I am going here. I like the Washington Nationals today as an underdog against the Toronto Blue Jays in the former Canada Bowl. Plus 145 on Irvin against Gausman. I know Kevin Gausman is Toronto's best pitcher. I get it. Toronto should not be that big of a favorite on the road against basically anyone but the White Sox at this point. So this is just a price play on the Nats, who have been, to Washington's credit, they're 16-16. They've been totally reasonable through 32 games, and also they've also been kind of a fun watch as well with those young players on offense.
I agree. I think there's about a 20-cent, what's the word I'm looking for? Value here.
Yeah,
I think they should probably be about minus 130, minus 135. Not big enough for me to have a play. I don't really have any baseball today, and the one that really stuck out to me was the Athletics. So that scared me. But I did like them yesterday. I thought that was a little bit high, minus 140, and they won that one comfortably. They are playing the Miami Marlins, everyone. So I do like them today. They do have Blackburn on the mound, and now that's up to minus 130. That's getting a little bit steep.
Too much.
Minus 120, I did like that as a play.
The A's are 16-17. With a win today, they'll be 500 through 34 games. Surprising.
I know.
To say the very least. Miami Marlins have already given up and waved the white flag for 2024. Where they traded Luis Ariz yesterday to San Diego for a pretty nice haul for a guy who had a career a year ago. But still, Miami waving the white flag in May. No franchise that does it better than them on waving it in season this early. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we get back. Vincenzo joins us. Get his thoughts on the Kentucky Derby and much more when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside, and now joining us, our friend, the best hair there is, Vinny Magliulo with us right now.
And it's all mine.
It's all yours.
Jeff, Alex, how are you both?
Very good. How are
Happy
you?
Derby Day.
That's right.
So, happy Derby Day. I wore red because of it, which is good. I don't have a fancy hat, though, which I was...
We can get you one.
Well, actually, I have to do this because I did this for the tournament, and I have to do it today. The best Kentucky Derby watch party is here at the South Point upstairs.
Yep.
The hat contest is at 2.
Right.
And there's all sorts of categories. You can win a bunch of money, too, if you win the hat contest.
Yes.
So if you have a fancy hat sitting around,
Mm-hmm.
a few categories, get here by about 1:40 to get your free parking, get upstairs, and be ready to be judged in the hat contest. No word on if Alex is judging or not.
Free entry up there as well. And by the way, Jimmy Vaccaro and I were judges a couple of years ago at the hat contest.
Okay.
Now that was a couple of years ago. Why not last year?
more.
Because there were people thinking that we handicapped it.
Okay, so I just have to ask you,
Yeah.
how did Jimmy handle that?
Oh, it was very, very smoothly, actually. You know, of course, everybody was sensational.
Oh,
They
sure.
were all sensational hats.
Sure.
But the hats that got the highest scores were accompanied by a bit of a performance. People get up there and way they model their hats and spin and dance. It's pretty good. It's entertaining. It's a lot of fun.
Did you make a hat?
I did not. And you know what? My mom's best friend, Phyllis, she goes to Rampart every year, and she has won numerous times. She goes all out. So that's what I was going to say. Don't just throw on any hat. You got to
put some effort. Yeah.
Put some effort into this.
Because there's some classics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I might have to borrow one of hers or get some tips.
We'll get Sean involved, actually. Even though the race day Las Vegas hat might actually have a shot of placing this year, Vinny.
It's a nice hat.
There it is.
It's a good hat.
Ralph
It's a quality
Sirocco.
hat.
We had a good show the other day.
Yes,
a lot
you
of fun
did.
with Ralph.
Yes, you did. If you
and the crew.
If you still have time, of course, Derby, you claim post time's 3:35 Pacific time. No, post time will be closer to about 6:50 there at Churchill Downs. So you still got plenty of time to get your bets in over the next few hours. Specials on there. The stream of the seminar from Grandview's also on the South Point Studio page. All the episodes of Race Day Las Vegas this week are on there. So all your Kentucky Derby needs from Ralph Sirocco and company are there. But Vinny, I have to ask you, because you and Chris like the ponies.
Oh, we love them.
Love the ponies.
We love them.
What are you looking forward to today there at the Derby?
Well, just so, hopefully that everything goes smooth, right? I mean, you always want to make sure that everybody's safe and everything, but which you always want that, right?
Of course.
injury-free and everything. The track is a little, it's muddy right now, but firm. So what that means is that it's a little, it's not necessarily a fast track just yet because there's been rain for the last 24 hours off and on. There'll probably be some showers today. But what they do at Churchill Downs a pretty good job of is sealing the track. When between races, they'll roll it to where it not only runs off, the water can run off, but it drains very well also. And if you watched the Kentucky Oaks yesterday, which I believe we gave out on Ralph's show the other day. I think we had the winner yesterday, Torpedo Anna, and we did, right? Right, Sean? Okay. And yep, we used Torpedo Anna yesterday in that race. The fractions were pretty quick, considering that the track was that muddy. So again, it's a credit to the folks at Churchill. You know, it's the single most wagered race of the year. We talk about the Super Bowl being the single most wagered sporting event. From a race perspective, the Kentucky Derby, everybody gets involved in Kentucky Derby. And here in Nevada, you're talking about $4 million just in Nevada bet on the Kentucky Derby of the $7 million that's going to be bet statewide. So you think about it, a lot more than 50% of the handle is going to be wagered there today on just that race. And again, everybody gets involved. It's the casual fan. Professionals get involved too, because with this size field and that much betting, even if it comes up a little bit chalky, there's value, there's liquidity in the pools. It's not your typical, a 2-to-1 shot that may get bet down to, even money or 3-to-5 oftentimes, right? It's because there's so much interest in it and so much betting, there's that much more liquidity. Yep.
For people that may be just showing up once a year for betting their horses, kind of like people who just show up and bet the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Can you just give everyone who may be unfamiliar with betting the horses just the explanation of the parimutuel?
Yeah.
Sure. Parimutuel means this is the only French I know.
Okay.
It means betting amongst ourselves.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it was a system developed in France. What you have with parimutuel that's different than, say, on the sports side, which is what we call fixed odds wagering, right? When you go to the window today, right, and you're going to bet the Nuggets, and if you're laying 4 with the Nuggets at the time of your wager, you're putting up 11 to win 10 to get back. If it's 110 to win 100, you're going to get back 210, and of course the point spread is involved, right? And that's the wage. That's the amount you win at the time of your wager. In parimutuel, the odds fluctuate, so you'll get the price. Let's say again, you look at a horse that's say 2-to-1. Well, if the horse goes off perhaps at 5-2, you're going to get a little bit more for your money. If the horse goes off at 4-to-1, you're going to get $10 for your $2 wagered. So parimutuel, the prices adjust, and it's based on what the horse went off at post time. When they open the gate, those final odds, that final flash, which usually comes, believe it or not, at the first quarter, okay, of the race, right, the quarter mile. You'll see on the tote board what the horse went off at, the off time price, and that's the price that you'll get. So it does fluctuate quite a bit, and sometimes it fluctuates to your advantage, sometimes not so much. But in a race like today, I think it'll be a bit more stable because of all the participation.
I don't want to make you over-teach, Vinny, but also can you talk about the exotic bets a little bit?
Sure. I'll over-teach, Alex, of course. Get my cap and gown out here. My lab coat. Your dad and I used to do this quite a bit on a show back in 2011.
That's right.
The line makers. So the exotics, Alex, as you mentioned, so you can bet a horse again. I don't know, Alex, are you looking at a horse today?
Well, you want my long shot?
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 18, Stronghold.
Number 18, Stronghold. So let's say a number 18, Stronghold. You can bet what's called the whips, win, place, and show. Okay, and as long as Stronghold comes in. If you bet it across the board, so to speak, win, place, and show, if he comes in first, you'll cash all 3. All right. If you bet it, win, place, and show. So you have the ability to bet a horse to finish first, second, or third. Then the exotics come into play, such as exactas. So the exacta is where you're going to pick a horse to finish first and you're going to pick a horse to finish second. If you want a trifecta, it's the first three. So, first, second, and third, you have the ability to do that. And you have the ability to put multiple horses in those slots. And obviously, the more horses you put in those slots, then the more expensive the ticket, you see.
Round robin.
You can kind of a round robin, a little bit. You can use that association. And then, there's, there are doubles, right? So what a double is where one race, you pick a winner of one race going to the next race and things like that. So there are many options on the race side, just like on the sports side. And if you're not sure, here's the thing: if you're a novice bettor, like we always say for the let's say the Super Bowl, don't walk up to the window 5 minutes before the race goes. Okay, go up to the window, ask, get what we call here scratch sheets, and with all the entries on there, and every horse is listed. Go up to the window between races. Don't forget, there's other races going on. So if you go to our race book right now, it's extremely busy because you've got every other racetrack that's running today in the country, and they're all adjusted post times because everybody there is going to want to bet the Derby at the respective tracks as well, and they are going to show the race there. So kind of get an idea by looking at the counter, how many people are at the counter because between races, oftentimes you'll be able to gauge when it's not as crowded. That's the time for a novice bettor to go up and say, listen, I want to bet the Kentucky Derby. Here's what I want to, can you tell me how? And what you're going to do is you're going to pick the track. So in this case, Churchill Downs, you'll want to say the track. You'll want to say what race number. And if it's the Kentucky Derby, you're going to say race 12. And I want to bet the number of the horse. So just like when we have BI numbers, betting interest numbers to the left of the teams, you will have what's called the saddlecloth number right to the left of the horse. So again, track, race, number or numbers, and the amount. How's that?
Very good.
All right.
Jeff, what's your plan? Are you going to do an exacta box or just pick a winner?
Well, let's just go through this real quick. Ever since, and it's not ancient history, but I was on maximum security.
Okay.
Which is still not happy about that to this day.
Another fine moment that you'll remember.
Oh no,
just like on the sports side.
Vinny, I was actually standing probably about 35 paces to our left
in the race book.
Watching in the race book here on that day. And my ticket after maximum security got scratched, went right into the trash can, got DQ'd.
DQ'd. First DQ in history of the Derby.
Yeah, for a winner, for a winner, yeah, naturally. Went right into the garbage can right next to where one of the kiosks is currently standing. So, I'm on two. I'm on Sierra Leone. The only question mark on him is the post position, which you can get. For lack of a better term, get stuck in the mud when you're on the inside in this race. Look, I think just the lack of the fierceness at his best is the rightful favorite. But Vinny, as we've seen with fierceness, we have seen a bunch of inconsistency with that horse.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if we get a bad run from fierceness today? That opens it up for the field, and I think Sierra Leone is the second favorite for a reason, but is the more consistent horse. That's why I'm on the two horse.
Yeah, and Sierra Leone, added blinkers a couple of races back and responded very well to him. The thing about fierceness, you want to make sure that, I guess, you're going to know, you're probably going to get a pretty good idea about fierceness in the gate. If you watch races with fierceness, he gets a little sketchy in the gate before races, and that's when he seems to have, he does not break well. If he's calm in the gate, then that's a good thing.
Then you're in good shape.
You're in better shape for sure. The thing about this race, and we oftentimes talk about how the point spread is the great equalizer, right, on the sports side. Again, to use another analogy, one of the equalizers in this race is the size of the field. This is an enormous. It's 20 horses. Okay. The other factors that are different too is there's 150,000 people there. Now, I could tell you this. Now, I know that you two never get nervous in front of 150,000 people. But the thing is, when it's a completely different dynamic. This is also the first time that these horses are going this distance at 1.25 miles. So there's a lot of factors that kind of really, bring a lot of horses closer to the field. So, no pun intended. So, I think there's a lot of tactical speed in this race too. So, who's going to go out and who's going to dictate the pace? And then, of course, it's up to the jockeys to navigate the trip and navigate that traffic. So, to me, I'm using both of the favorites there, both Fierceness and Sierra Leone, because it's difficult not to have them just given their performances, right? But I've also got a couple of other horses. And again, I'm going to watch how the weather comes up too. But I'm going to use Catching Freedom, the 4-horse, and 8 with Just a Touch. What's interesting too is that those will be kind of my top, and then I'll sprinkle in some other horses underneath in my exotics, as I was describing with Alex a few minutes ago, exactas and trifectas too. So, but I think to me it's a fun race. You want to watch how these races are going now. There's another term that you want to pay attention to, Jeff, and to your point about the 2-hole, right? Is there a track bias going on right now in some of these earlier races? And let's remember, there's going to be 11 races at Churchill Downs today before the Kentucky Derby. So how is the rail playing? How are the inside posts playing? How are the outside posts playing out? Now again, there's no other races prior to it. Actually, the 9th race has a 17 horse field, as does the 5. So those 2 races, I would say you want. Although the 5th race is on the turf. And so is the 9th race. So that's not going to give you a lot of great intel on the main track, but you want to watch the other races, particularly the ones that are on the main track, to see how they're playing out with the track bias.
Ralph was so kind. He gave us some petty cash for the studio to make a bet. So we have an exacta box for the studio, and Sean really put this together.
Sure,
mostly.
we just listened
but we
to
have
Sean,
2 and 17, like you said. It's hard not to have those two.
Right.
2, 17, and 11.
2, 17, and 11. The 11 is Forever Young.
The Japanese, yes.
Yeah. Well, listen. The thing about Forever Young, I'm gonna get my notes here.
But yeah, so
he's 5 for 5.
Ralph again
5 for 5, and ran over in Dubai.
Okay.
And a Japanese horse. Tell you what, a very talented horse. There's kind of a jinx with the horses that have run in the UAE Derby, but listen, at some point that could change, right? And so maybe today's the day.
Why not the 150th?
Why not? Why not? For sure. Yeah.
Should be a good day. Will you be up there?
Yes, I'll be back and forth. By the way, Chris Andrews, director here at South Point, Chris mentioned it on the show the other day. So a little bit of a sports angle here.
Matchup.
Head-to-head matchups. What these are basically like a. Now this is a sports bet within a horse race, and what it is where horses are paired against each other, head-to-head. For instance, here's one: Sierra Leone and Catching Freedom. Sierra Leone opened minus 140, $1.40 favorite, and plus 120 on Catching Freedom. Now these have been bet considerably, quite a bit. And you have them, Alex. You got what's the adjusted price on that one right now? What's the current price?
That first one?
Yes.
Sierra Leone is 165.
165. So money came in on the favorite there. And what this is again, now in this case, these wagers are fixed odds. They are not pari-mutuel wagers. They are outside of the pool. They're house bets. And what all you have to do is, if you're picking one of these horses, they have to finish ahead of the other horse. It doesn't matter where. They don't have to finish first, second, or third. If you bet Catching Freedom and Catching Freedom finishes 15th and Sierra Leone comes in 16th or low, that's how these are graded. So these are fun bets too. So the way we've got prop bets, these are in essence prop bets for the Kentucky Derby.
It's always a fun day.
It's the greatest.
It's always
Love
a fun day. It's always a fun day for me to just punt off some money to the pari-mutuel fund as well.
Listen, you're doing you're doing the Lord's work. Remember that.
Look, it's
you're going to cash today. You get cash today.
Vinny, it is my patriotic duty
That's right.
To punt off money into
It's all American. You have to bet the Derby.
No,
it's the
of
Derby.
course. It's the same sort of deal. If there's a Triple Crown on the line at the Belmont,
sure. Well,
it's the same thing.
Listen, somebody's going to win this race today, and we'll know in a couple of weeks.
Well, the interesting thing, Vinny,
Mm-hmm.
is of course Bob Baffert has no horses in this because of the suspension.
Yeah, no.
He will have at least one in Maryland in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be very interesting to see, especially if it is Fierceness or Sierra Leone, one of those two favorites that does win today.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see how what ends up happening with those morning lines with Baffert horses appearing in Maryland.
Yeah, and again, it'll depend on which Baffert horses and what their recent what their form is and things like that. And of course, today's horses are going to be off a shorter layoff, a 2-week layoff, right? So, and then after that, it'll be 3 weeks to the Belmont Stakes, which, as we know, this year is not going to be run at Belmont.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be run at Saratoga. Yeah. Why wouldn't it? There's some renovation. There's some work being done at
Vinny, why did they put it at Aqueduct? Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I was. I don't blame you. Yeah, I know. I hear you.
I'm happy you reminded me of that because I remember when that was going on and Naira was trying to figure out what makes sense here.
Yeah.
There was a whole collection of people. I don't know if they were being satirical or not. I think they probably were, that really wanted that race at Aqueduct.
Well, it played. It's much closer.
Of course
it's a bigger facility.
Yeah, but Saratoga though.
But Saratoga's beautiful. So yeah.
That is pretty good. The Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. There we go. Boy, that will be, if there's a Triple Crown on the line that day, that will be one of the most ridiculous scenes that we've ever seen.
Yes. And again, if you haven't been to Saratoga, get there. It's a special place. It's a boutique meet typically in the summer. But it's just beautiful up there. It's a beautiful part of the country, and the track is terrific. One of the oldest tracks in the country, and a lot of pageantry up there as well. But I kind of I just think Belmont Stakes, which I've been to, and just Belmont is. I told you that's my first experience making a bet. I was 8 years old.
What at Belmont Park?
Belmont Park. I thought I was going to the Bronx Zoo.
Well,
I asked my Uncle Tony.
There were animals.
Well, I asked my Uncle Tony because he said to me, "Let's go. I want to go see some animals. I want to get out of the house." Yeah, let's go. I thought we were going up to the Bronx. And I'm looking around. I'm like, "Hey, Uncle Tony, what's this? How come the only animals here are horses?" He said, "It's a very special zoo." There you go.
That's spectacular. That's so good. Vinny, pleasure as always. We'll see you again next week. Alex, we'll see both of us again on Tuesday. We're off the next 2 days, of course. Go back, watch the show. We previewed the big events tomorrow as well. Getting you ready for Game 7s tomorrow, tonight, Game 1s, and those other big series as well. Sean, Drew Dog, great work as always. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again Tuesday. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.